Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at weather next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, it's going to take us up to around the 13th of May, so getting towards the middle part of the month, even though we're just at the beginning of the month, of course. So we did the May month-end forecast earlier on this morning. You find it on the month-end forecast page. It's quite a complicated one this month, and we've gone against the long-range models a little bit, which are going for quite a dismal month, actually. Quite wet, quite cool. And we think it's going to be a little bit better than that. So if you want to know more about that, check that video out on the month-end forecast page. As I say, this is going to be looking at the next week to 10 days, and you'll perhaps see why I'm a bit dubious about those models that are going for really dismal month, because actually the next week to 10 days, the weather is looking really quite good. And of course, things could deteriorate later on in the month, but we're going to have some very pleasant conditions coming up over the next few days. So that's one of the reasons I've gone against the long-range model output a little bit for this month. I'll show you the detail in a second for next week, 10 days. Before I get on with that, just very quickly, to mention the ads at Gadsweb Viz. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks so much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages, so open up the content when you're watching them, close back up again. It helps to pay for our website. So we'll start off with 500 millibar height anomaly charts for the next week to 10 days. I say this takes us around the 13th of May. So orange and red extrapolating high pressure, blue to low pressure. What we see with the ECMWF first of all, which is on the top, and then the GFS on the bottom, we'll have a look at that in a second. What we see for the ECMWF for next week 10 days is that we've got a ridge out to the west and the northwest, and a trough down to the south of the country, and it means that high pressure is quite dominant, and the flow is probably going something a little bit like that. Quite a complicated one, but the flow is probably doing something like that. The upshot is it's pretty dry, and at least initially it's quite warm, but later on probably start to pull down some cooler air from the east or the northeast. As long as it's low pressure stays cut off to the south, the ridge, the high pressure, will be the dominating factor, which is going to be pretty pleasant for May. Now, the GFS is very similar. The ridge, again, in a week to 10 days' time, is more out to the west, but is still extending over us. Again, there's that cut-off trough down to the south. If you're off to Iberia, off to the Algarve, Spain, Portugal, in the week to 10-day time frame, it's going to be pretty grim down there with a lot of heavy rain. For us, again, high pressure is dominating, or above average heights dominating. The flow is more easterly, I think, with this. So the GFS is a little bit warmer for the week 10-day time frame, but maybe cooling down a little bit later. But essentially, the first week to 10 days of May, you have quite a lot of dry, settled, and fairly warm weather. And you can see this on the GFS temperature and precipitation ensemble. So all of those ideas that we had last week of colder than average conditions, we find that's gone. It's still a little bit cooler than average just today, but look at this, the temperatures are really on their way up. And for the coming week, dates on the bottom of the chart, of course, for the coming week, at least it's significantly warmer than average, significantly above the red line, which is the 30-year temperature average. As we get towards mid-month, this is the period just here, we're possibly seeing a little bit of a decline in temperature, but even then, most members of the GFS ensemble are staying above average. So up to the middle part of the month, it does look really quite warm, and at least initially very dry. There are some rainfall spikes coming back later on, particularly as getting towards next week, but overall, that's a pretty dry looking ensemble, certainly for the first week to 10 days or so, which is in that time frame. After that, yes, it does turn a little bit more unsettled. The temperature anomaly for the coming week, this takes us from the 3rd through to the 11th of May. That's above average, so a warmer than average week coming up. All those blue colours that we had last week with that cold weather at the end of April, those have gone, and we're in those red colours. The precipitation anomaly is coming out near normal. It's drier to the east and a little bit wetter up to the northwest, but overall I think hinting at slightly drier than average for most parts of the country, near normal. to a bit drier than average. Here is the generic chart for Saturday, and the idea is that we've got low pressure to the southwest, high pressure to the northeast. That's drawing the flow up from the south and southeast. There could be some showers being drawn up with this, and with time they could turn a bit thundery as the air just gets warmer and more humid. But they'll be hit and miss, so that's why this precipitation anomaly is looking a bit odd, because some places probably getting a few thunderstorms and having quite a wetter than average week. Other places missing them altogether and are coming out drier than average. So for the coming Saturday, we've got this southerly wind bringing fairly warm air up from the south, and also a chance for a few thunder showers. That stays with us into Sunday, the general pattern in Sunday. Inside of next week, again, same idea, the high pressure over Scandinavia, the low pressure is centred across Spain and Portugal, and we're drawing up this southerly to southeasterly flow. It will be warm, but it could be drawing up some showers or maybe even longer spells of rain in the southwest of the country. That's more probable on Tuesday, as this area of low pressure gets quite close to the south coast, but it's still fairly warm setup with showers and possibly even a bit thundery, but temperatures should be above average. That stays with us since the middle part of the week, and as we go through to the end of the week, this is Friday the 13th of May, day 10, we find the ridge building back in from the northwest, and that's probably within cooler air. What's happening there is that the warmest of the air is being pushed off towards the east of Europe, and we're starting to bring down some cooler air from the north or the northeast. But high pressure still in control with that. This is how the temperatures are stacking up through the coming few days. So we're up to 16, 17 degrees tomorrow, quite widely across the country. We get through into Thursday, again 17, 18 degrees. Friday, even higher, up to 19, 20, possibly 21. 21 is 70 Fahrenheit. I haven't seen those sort of temperatures, I don't think, since September, although a few days in the middle of December actually got quite close. The weekend shows temperatures again up to 17, 18, 19 degrees. Sunday looks really warm. Look at this, up to 22 or 23 degrees. 23 is 73 Fahrenheit. That could be the peak of it on Sunday the 8th. And 25 Celsius, 77 Fahrenheit, isn't all that far away from the southeast of England. Little bit cooler to start next week, but still significantly warmer than average at 18, 19, 20. That stays with us into Tuesday. Wednesday still warm, and then Thursday it starts to turn a bit cooler from the north and the northeast. So by the end of next week, we're probably going back down towards average with temperatures into the mid-teens Celsius. But that's several days there of really quite warm weather coming up. ECM is very similar. There's the southerly flow with the risk of thundery showers on Saturday, stays with us into Sunday. Monday, no real change in the pattern. The high pressure is to the north and the northeast, low pressure down to the southwest, drawing up this southerly flow. This isn't all that different compared to the cold pattern that we had at the end of April. It's just we've found ourselves on the warm side of the blocking, really. But it's not a million miles away. The pattern that gave us that really cold end to April. So the start of next week, again, still drawing up those southerly southeasterly winds, and that stays with us into Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we start to draw down a slightly cooler air mass from the northeast, and that continues into Thursday and Friday, day 10. It is turning significantly cooler then, with the air coming back in from Scandinavia. If I just quickly show you the upper air temperatures, you'll see they are significantly cooler as we get through towards the end of next week. That's a very long way off, but it just shows that as the trough aligns, the trough and the ridge, or the block and the trough, I should say, realigns ever so slightly, we start to pull down that cooler air. So the pattern we've got through the coming days isn't a million miles away from the pattern that gave us all the cold weather at the end of April. It's just we've found ourselves on the warm side of the blocking for the coming few days. And it is going to get quite warm. Temperatures by Friday should be up to around 20 or 21 degrees. By the end of the weekend, they could be up to around 22 or 23 degrees. 23 is 73 Fahrenheit. Very, very warm for early May. There will be a risk of thundery showers and maybe some thunderstorms. And as we go through into next week, it starts off quite warm, but we may get a bit of a cooling trend back towards normal. Maybe a little cooler than that as we get through to the second half of next week. That's a long way off, of course. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.